Okay, picture this. It's Saturday night in Chicago, January 24th, 2026. You're walking up to the United Center, and that classic wind is just whipping off Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
It's cold, but you don't care. Not at all. Because inside, that building is about to be absolutely electric. You've got the Jordan statue outside, and inside, a classic rivalry. The Boston Celtics are in town to face the Chicago Bulls.
And, there's always something special in the air when those two jerseys are on the same court. It just feels, I don't know, it feels historic, even now.
It does, but let's be honest for a second. You glance at the standings and you might just, roll your eyes. You've got Boston at what, 28 and 16, sitting second in the East, a total juggernaut. And then you've got the Bulls. They are the definition of average, hovering right around 22 and 22, just stuck at 500. So on paper, this should be a walk in the park for Boston.
On paper, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, games aren't played on paper. And we definitely don't bet on paper. Because when you actually dig into the numbers for tonight, the situational stuff, there are flashing red lights everywhere for the Celtics.
That's the first thing I saw. I was looking at the betting lines, and it's Boston minus 1.5. 1.5. That's a coin flip. For a number 2 seed against a 500 team, it feels wrong. It feels like a trap.
It feels like a trap until you look at one word, schedule. This isn't just David versus Goliath. This is Goliath trying to fight David after running a marathon yesterday.
Right. So that's our mission today. We're not just going to pick a winner. We need to unpack why the models, why the market is screaming that this game is going to be so incredibly close. We have to figure out if that minus 1.5 is a gift or if Vegas knows something we don't.
Exactly. We're decoding fatigue versus home court.
So let's start with the Giants. The Green Machine. Boston's overall form is, it's excellent. They defend, they're efficient, they have the stars. But the analysis for tonight, he keeps pointing to Jaylen Brown, not Jason Tatum. Why is Brown the so-called central engine in this specific game?
Well, think about how Boston plays when they're fresh compared to when they're, on fumes. When they're fresh, the ball is popping, everyone's moving. But tonight, on the second night of a back-to-back in a really tough spot, you just need a guy who can create his own shot.
The bailout guy.
That is Jaylen Brown, 100%. His usage just skyrockets when the offense gets bogged down. And tonight, the models are all predicting the offense is going to get very, very bogged down.
Just because the legs are gone.
Precisely. Brown's whole game is built on that explosive first step, right? Getting to the rim, finishing to contact. It's less about offensive rhythm and more about just sheer force. The data shows that in these back-to-back spots, his scoring is actually more consistent than the other guys because he forces the issue. He doesn't settle.
That makes perfect sense. If your legs are shot, your jumper is the first thing to go. It always ends up short. Brown drives, gets contact, goes to the line. He can stop a run.
He creates a floor for their offense. If Boston struggles to score, say, 105 points tonight, Brown is probably getting 30 of those just on his own. He's the guy that prevents a total meltdown when everyone else is running in mud.
Okay, so let's talk about that running in mud part. The Achilles heel. The schedule. We hear this term all the time, right? Schedule loss. Oh, it's a back-to-back. Just chalk it up. But come on, these guys are elite athletes. They've got private jets, cryo chambers. Does playing last night really make that big of a difference?
I love the question. But the numbers don't lie. It's not just about feeling tired. It's biomechanics. I looked at Boston's three-point shooting on 0 days rest over the last 2 seasons. Their percentage drops by almost 4.5%.
Whoa, 4.5%. That is a massive number in the NBA. That's the difference between a great offense and a pretty bad one.
It is. And it's just physics, right? A good jump shot needs your legs to create lift, to get that arc. When your legs are heavy, the ball comes out flat. Hits the front of the rim. You see it again and again.
So all those kick-out threes that Boston usually drains, tonight they might just be clanging off the iron.
And that changes everything. If the shots aren't falling, the defense can pack the paint. The floor shrinks. It gets ugly. And there's another piece to this fatigue puzzle. Pace.
Yeah, I saw the pace projections were way, way down.
Historically, Boston on a back-to-back, their possessions per game just plummets. They don't push the ball. They walk it up. They don't hunt for fast breaks because, sprinting the length of the floor costs energy they're trying to save for the defensive end.
So they're basically hitting the brakes on purpose.
It's pure survival mode. They're trying to shorten the game. Fewer possessions means fewer times you have to scramble back on D. So even though they're the better team, they're forced to play a style that, frankly, helps Chicago.
Which is the perfect pivot to the Bulls. Probably the most confusing team in the entire league. One night they look like contenders, the next they look like they're tanking. 22-22. But, and this is a huge but, they play so much better at the United Center.
Yeah, the home dog profile is a real thing here, and the stats back it up completely. Chicago's net rating, it jumps by nearly 6 points when they're playing at home versus on the road. That's a huge swing.
Is that just the crowd, you think? Or is it something tactical?
I think it's mostly confidence.
Yeah.
You always hear that role players shoot better in their own gym, and it's statistically true. But for this specific Bulls team, they just feed off that energy. They get a couple of stops, the crowd roars, and suddenly their defensive intensity goes up a notch. And they're facing a tired team. If Chicago brings the energy, Boston might just not have another gear to hit.
So let's look at the key matchup. If Brown is the engine for Boston's tired offense, who's the guy that Chicago needs to use to exploit that fatigue?
Oh, it's Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
The big fella.
The big fella. And it's not just about his scoring. It's about rebounding. It is all about the glass tonight. The data shows that when Boston is on the second night of a back-to-back, their defensive rebounding rate tanks. They don't box out. They get lazy.
They're just standing and watching the ball instead of finding a body.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And Vucevic is an absolute master at punishing that. He is physical. He lives in the paint, and his offensive rebounding numbers are what should, keep Celtics fans up at night. If Boston is clanking all those tired jumpers we talked about, Vucevic is the guy who's going to be there to clean it all up.
Second chance points. That sounds like the stat that's going to decide the whole thing.
It's the ultimate equalizer. If you can steal 10, maybe 12 extra possessions just by outworking the other team on the glass, that can completely erase Boston's talent advantage.
But the Bulls are far from perfect. I mean, there's a reason they're a .500 team. What's their big vulnerability? The thing that could let Boston off the hook, even if they are tired.
It's their perimeter defense. It's always their perimeter defense. They have this bad habit of overhelping on drives. They'll collapse into the paint and just completely lose track of shooters on the wing or in the corners.
And even a gassed Celtics team can make that extra pass to find the open man.
That's the one thing they do in their sleep. Drive, kick, swing, shoot. If Chicago has a mental lapse for even 2 seconds, Boston will find that shot. It's why they struggle against teams with winning records. Good teams exploit those mistakes. Boston won't miss that pass.
So it really is a game of discipline versus fatigue.
That's the chess match in a nutshell.
Speaking of chess matches, let's talk about the feel of this game. The total, the over-under, is set around 230. In today's NBA, that feels low, almost old school.
It's low for a reason. And honestly, I think the under is probably the sharpest bet on the board, even at that number.
Okay, walk me through that. It's more than just Boston's tired, so they'll score less, right?
It is. A big part of it is how Boston defends when they're tired. They stop gambling. They don't jump passing lanes for steals, because if you miss, you're dead. You have to sprint back. So they just pack the paint. They play a very conservative, keep the ball in front of you style.
Which forces the other team to use more of the shot clock.
Exactly. It forces Chicago into half-court execution, which, let's be honest, isn't always their strong suit. So you've got Boston walking the ball up and Boston playing conservative defense. Both of those things just chew up the clock. Fewer possessions means fewer points.
So no track meet tonight. We should be expecting a slugfest.
This is going to be a mud fight.
Yeah.
And that kind of game always favors the under. And kind of weirdly, it also favors the underdog.
How so? Why the underdog?
Because it lowers the variance. In a high-scoring shootout, the team with more talent, the better shooters, which is Boston, is probably going to pull away.
Yeah.
But in a low-scoring, ugly, physical game, a couple of weird bounces, a few offensive rebounds from Vucevic, and all of a sudden Chicago's up by 4 with 90 seconds left.
That sets us up perfectly for the betting angle. That spread. Celtics -1.5. I'm sorry, I just can't get over how small that number is.
The market is yelling at you. That's what that is.
What's it yelling?
It's yelling that the schedule loss spot is very, very real. If this game were played yesterday on even rest, Boston is probably a 6.5, maybe 7-point favorite. The market has literally shaved 5 full points off this line just for fatigue and travel.
A 5-point adjustment. That is an eternity in the NBA. So is the public betting on Boston? Because that line looks so tempting.
Oh, the public is all over Boston.
Mm-hmm.
They see Celtics winning 1.5, and they think it's free money. A better team only has to win by a basket. Sign me up.
But the sharp money.
The sharp money is either staying away or, if anything, it's leaning towards Chicago.
Because they respect the situation.
They respect the spot. They know a line that looks too good to be true usually is. The odds makers are basically daring you to bet on Boston. And when Vegas dares you to do something, you should probably think about doing the opposite.
So the contrarian move is taking the Bulls, maybe even on the money line to win outright.
Some of the models I look at are definitely showing value on the Bulls' money line. I mean, if you think the game is basically a coin flip and one side pays you plus money, the math says you take the plus money. It's a classic live dog spot. Chicago's rested, they're at home, they have momentum.
And you can't forget the motivation factor. A .500 team scrambling for playoff position they need this win more than a comfortable number 2 seed does.
100%. Motivation is a real metric. Boston can afford to drop this one. Chicago really can't.
So to wrap it all up, Celtics grinding, Bulls crashing the glass, a slow, ugly game. What's the final verdict for someone trying to understand this matchup?
The key takeaway is, do not trust the standings tonight. Boston is the favorite on paper because of their talent. Jaylen Brown can single-handedly win them this game. But every single situational factor is screaming Chicago's name.
It's the classic better team versus the better spot.
That's it, exactly. And in the long grind of an NBA season, the better spot wins a lot more often than people think. The smart money says this is a dogfight that comes down to who controls the offensive boards.
So if you're watching tonight, just count the offensive rebounds. Forget the score.
That's the real scoreboard for this game.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought here, something to chew on. We talked about Chicago's main problem, their inconsistency. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat, and they lose to the good teams. It's the mark of an average team.
The glass ceiling.
But tonight, that glass ceiling has a crack in it. Boston is vulnerable. The stage is perfectly set for an upset. So if Chicago loses this game, at home, fully rested, against a tired opponent, what does that really say about them?
It says they're not a serious team.
Right. If you can't punch up and win tonight, when can you?
Okay.
Is this the night the Bulls finally prove they can be more than just mediocre? Or does the fourth quarter start, Boston's talent finally shines through, and the natural order is just restored?
And that's the beauty of it. The numbers can tell us the story, but the players on the court have to write the ending.
It's going to be a fascinating watch. Thanks for breaking it all down with us.
Anytime. Let's see if the dog has any bite.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.